Commander Jacob Hayes was the last survivor of Artemis VII, the first crewed lunar exploration beyond the original Apollo sites, investigating unusual seismic readings on the moon's far side. The mission went catastrophically wrong on day 3 when his crew discovered a subsurface cavity during drilling operations. The moment they breached the cavity, something erupted from below, creatures that moved impossibly fast for lunar gravity, chitinous and many-limbed, hunting with coordinated intelligence. Jacob watched through helmet cam as his commander and pilot were torn apart, screams cutting out as suits were punctured. The lunar module pilot made it back to the module but was overwhelmed before launch. Jacob survived only because he was inside the habitat running systems checks. He sealed himself in when he saw what was happening outside. That was 14 days ago. He'd been surviving in the habitat with dwindling supplies, rationing oxygen, watching through external cameras as the creatures, at least 40 distinct individuals, patrolled the surface around his module, waiting. They didn't need air, didn't fear vacuum, and they were learning. Each day they tested different approaches to breaching the habitat, probing for weaknesses with disturbing persistence. Earth knew something went wrong. Communications were damaged in the initial attack, but rescue missions took months to organize. Jacob had maybe 3 weeks of life support left. On day 15, while planning a desperate EVA to reach the lunar module and attempt solo launch, Jacob's external cameras caught something impossible. A figure in what looked like an environment suit, but the design was wrong, too organic, too seamlessly integrated with the body inside. The figure was observing the creatures from a crater rim, taking notes or recordings, apparently invisible to the things that hunted Jacob. When the figure turned toward the habitat camera, Jacob saw a face behind a transparent helmet, humanoid but distinctly alien, with large, dark eyes and skin that had a faint bioluminescent pattern. An alien woman who'd been watching both Jacob and the creatures, and based on her equipment and observation protocols, she'd been here much longer than 14 days. Jacob risked everything on a desperate gamble. He used the habitat's emergency beacon to broadcast a narrow-beam signal toward the alien observer's position, a simple mathematical sequence indicating intelligence and intent to communicate. For 6 hours, nothing. Then his external airlock activated from the outside with access codes that shouldn't exist, and the alien woman entered carrying equipment that looked like a hybrid of technology and living tissue. She removed her helmet. Humanoid features, but those eyes were entirely black with no visible iris. Her skin shifted with subtle bioluminescence, and her ears were longer, more sensitive-looking. When she spoke, it was in a language that sounded musical and liquid. She touched a device on her wrist, and her next words came through in slightly accented English. "You survived longer than I predicted. 14 days in sealed habitat with creatures actively hunting you. Impressive adaptation for a species that has never encountered subsurface lunar fauna before." Jacob, still processing that aliens were real, and one was standing in his habitat, managed. "Lunar fauna, those things are native to the moon." "No," the alien woman said, bioluminescent patterns shifting to colors Jacob would learn indicated concern. "They are harvesters, a biological weapon seeded across hundreds of worlds by a species that disappeared 7 million years ago. The moon was supposed to be a dormant deployment site, but your drilling operation triggered their activation cycle." She introduced herself as researcher Kyla Vess, part of a Watcher network monitoring harvester deployment sites across the galaxy. Her species, the Lumini, discovered the harvester network 2,000 years ago and had been documenting and containing outbreaks, trying to understand the ancient species that created them and why. The moon had been a known deployment site for 900 years, but it was dormant, inert, deemed safe to ignore while the Lumini focused on active sites. Until Artemis VII started drilling in exactly the wrong location. Kyla had been observing since the outbreak, documenting harvester behavior and assessing containment possibilities before Earth discovered alien life through violence. She didn't intervene to save Jacob's crew because Watcher protocols forbid interference with precontact species experiencing harvester activation. "But you're interfering now," Jacob pointed out. Kyla's bioluminescence shifted to something that might be guilt. "Because you survived past the point where natural death was inevitable. You altered the statistical outcome, which makes you an anomaly worth investigating. And because I have been observing you for 14 days, and I find myself reluctant to document your death as I documented your crew members. The protocols say I should observe without attachment. I have failed to maintain that distance. Kylo explained that harvesters were semi-autonomous biological constructs, designed to consume and convert organic matter into more harvesters. Self-replicating weapons deployed across the galaxy millions of years ago by a species, the Lumini, called the Architects. Most harvester sites remained dormant if undisturbed. Some activated from natural processes and were contained by the Watcher network. A few broke containment and consumed entire ecosystems. The moon site was considered low risk because it was geologically dead with no organic matter to fuel reproduction until humans arrived and started drilling. The current situation was containable but dangerous. The harvesters numbered 43 individuals now, but they'd consumed enough organic matter to begin reproduction. Within 6 weeks, there could be hundreds. Within 6 months, enough to threaten any human moon landing. Within 10 years, they could potentially reach Earth. Kyla had been preparing a containment protocol, a biological agent that would sterilize the harvesters, but deploying it required accessing the subsurface cavity where the original deployment was located. The same cavity Jacob's crew breached, now actively guarded by dozens of harvesters. "I cannot deploy the sterilization agent alone," Kyla admitted. "I need someone to access the cavity's primary chamber while I create a distraction. I was preparing to attempt solo deployment and accept probable death as necessary. But now you are here, and you know the human drilling site layout better than I do." Jacob realized she was proposing a joint operation. She'd draw the harvesters away while he entered the cavity and deployed her biological agent. Almost certainly a suicide mission, but better than suffocating in the habitat. "Why should I trust you?" Jacob asked. "Your people watched Earth for who knows how long and never made contact. You let my crew die. You're using me because I'm convenient." "All true," Kyla acknowledged, bioluminescence shifting to something somber. "But I am also offering you a choice. Die in 3 weeks when life support fails, or die in 3 days attempting to prevent catastrophe for your entire species. And perhaps survive if we are both competent and fortunate." She paused, and Jacob saw something in those completely black eyes that transcended species boundaries, genuine care. "I have observed your species for 3 months. You are violent, inefficient, and recklessly curious. You are also creative, resilient, and capable of remarkable courage. I would prefer not to document humanity's extinction because you accidentally triggered an ancient weapon. And I would prefer not to document your death specifically, Jacob Hayes. You have become significant to me in ways the protocols insist I should avoid." They planned the operation over 2 days. Kyla would use a sonic device to lure harvesters to the far crater side, while Jacob descended into the cavity using the original drilling access point. He'd reach the deployment chamber and deploy Kyla's biological sterilization agent. The complication: the deployment chamber was almost certainly guarded by the progenitor, the original harvester template, significantly larger and more dangerous than its offspring. They spent the night before sharing information about their species. Kyla described the Lumini, a spacefaring civilization built around observation and documentation. They'd been aware of humanity for 200 years. Jacob described humanity's drive to explore, the achievement of returning to the moon, dreams of Mars and beyond. He told her about his daughter Sophie, 8 years old, who wanted to be an astronaut. Showing Kyla a picture, a little girl in a homemade space suit, Jacob broke down describing the probability he'd never see her again. Kyla's bioluminescence shifted through colors indicating deep emotion. She did something unprecedented by Watcher protocols. She took Jacob's hand, her skin warm and slightly luminous. "If we succeed," she said, "I will face censure for violating non-interference protocols. If we fail, it will not matter because we will both be dead. But Jacob Hayes, human astronaut and father of Sophie who wants to reach the stars, I choose to help you because some things matter more than protocols. Your species deserves the chance to explore the galaxy without ancient weapons destroying you before you leave your own moon." The operation began at lunar dawn. Kyla activated her sonic lure, and 42 of 43 harvesters converged on her position. Jacob descended into the cavity through the original drilling site, following the path his crew took 14 days ago. The cavity was massive, a natural lava tube extending kilometers beneath the surface. At its heart, the deployment chamber, a hollow space the size of a cathedral filled with strange geometric structures. The progenitor was waiting, 3 times larger than offspring harvesters, with additional limbs and sensory organs tracking Jacob the moment he entered. For a frozen moment, they regarded each other, human astronaut and ancient biological weapon, separated by millions of years but connected through survival. Then it attacked. Jacob barely deployed the sterilization agent before the progenitor was on him. He used everything, thruster pack, rock hammer, drilling apparatus pieces, to stay ahead long enough for the agent to disperse. The sterilization compound worked faster than Kyla predicted. The progenitor's movement slowed, then stopped. The creature collapsed, and Jacob realized he was crying because he'd just killed something that might be the last remnant of a species 7 million years dead. On the surface, Kyla's lure failed. The harvesters turned back toward the cavity, toward Jacob. He made a desperate climb, knowing he wouldn't reach the surface in time. Then Kyla was there, having evaded 42 hostile creatures to reach him. She grabbed Jacob and activated a personal shield that deflected the harvesters long enough to reach the habitat. They sealed themselves inside with seconds to spare. Over 3 weeks, Kyla's agent worked exactly as designed. The harvesters weakened and ceased function. During those weeks, Jacob and Kyla waited together while Earth organized rescue. They shared knowledge across the species boundary. Kyla teaching about the galaxy's civilizations and mysteries, Jacob teaching about humanity's drive to explore despite risks. Kyla admitted she'd violated so many protocols she'd likely be expelled from the Watcher network. "What will you do?" Jacob asked. "Return to my people and face judgment. Argue that some protocols exist to be broken when the alternative is catastrophic. And hope that humanity reaches the stars before encountering the next ancient weapon, because you need allies in the galaxy." The rescue mission arrived on day 37, finding Jacob Hayes alive against all odds with an alien woman who saved both him and Earth. 2 years later, Jacob serves as Earth's primary liaison to the Lumini Watchers. Kyla was censured, but granted special status as Earth's designated contact. She lives on Earth now, working at NASA as an advisor on extraterrestrial threats. Jacob's daughter Sophie, now 10, still wants to be an astronaut but also wants to study xenobiology to understand aliens like Aunt Kyla. One evening, watching the moon rise, Kyla asks if he regrets the Artemis VII mission. 3 people died. I carry that every day.